Hi guys, when going through the chess.com bots, I've done alright until I got to like the 2000s, in which case it just became a brutal slog, a war of attrition where you got to take on the bots a few times to be able to beat them. And that's never been more true than with Sakura. So I think Lee was the first one that took me like 4 or 5 times. Fatima was alright, Manuel alright. Noam was tough. But yeah, this Sakura, I just beat her, and I've done like an embarrassing number of videos on her. I did over like a period of time. I didn't really realize how many times I'd lost to her and done various titles of me like destroyed by Sakura or whatever. But I'd actually given up on recording a video on it. Hence, I'm doing it after the fact. I was just laying in bed, like half asleep, and I didn't expect to win at all. Obviously, I was tired, but the thing, right, I want to talk a little bit about the difference between a human 2200, because I've had a lot of comments, like these bots are overrated. And yeah, they are, right? They are. A little bit, a few hundred points. But I think the big difference, the big difference now, a human, the errors that a 2200 human would make are the majority of the time, they're so subtle. And, you wouldn't pick up on them a lot of the time. But the thing is with these bots, they're programmed to have a certain number of errors depending on their level. And some of these errors are comically, simple, even at a 2200 bot. So I wouldn't say I'm certainly not better than Sakura. I've played her 10 times and managed to get a fluky victory against her. But anyway, the game went like this. She had this early clamp on the center, but you can still crack at it with this move. The only thing is you get, if you follow the normal line, you'd get queen takes, and that's a bit ugly because knight comes out and you just lose in tempo straight away. So instead, I left this pawn in the center, opting to win it back with my knight at some point in the future. So they throw in this check, right? And the engine likes just blocking with the knight, Fianchetto in on the other side, castle, and you don't even care. They can put on pressure, but we don't really care. So I block with the bishop, though, opting for a trade, and finally win that pawn back. And actually, I'm a little bit more developed here as black, so I'm doing all right. And engine says I'm slightly better. So here I just take. Now, if takes, I don't know why. Why did I take that? I guess this pawn here is always going to be a weakness. There's this backwards pawn, and it leaves them with an isolated pawn on the edge. So this structure just looks a little bit vulnerable, maybe. And actually, building on that, I looked at this move for a few minutes, just before this video. Why is this an inaccuracy? Let me know in the comments, guys. What do you think? Bishop on this diagonal, controls so much space. Engine likes just putting it here, which I don't know, why hit this square when you can threaten to mate the king, right? I thought this was just way more natural. So yeah, let me know what you think. But I think it's something to do with blocking the queen's vision of this pawn here. And therefore, this allows this pawn break in the center. I think that's why. So maybe sliding the bishop back would have been wise at some point. So their rook comes out, hits this pawn, I just push it. And now they go for this pawn break in the center. I can just take, though. And I think there's this tactic. If they take, I take with check and win their queen. So they throw in a check here. I slide back. Queen now defends the pawn. So no tactics any longer. And they just come in it's not a fork because it's a knight, but it's knight versus knight. So I can just capture. So now there's a lot of pressure on this pawn here. So I just go to defend it, which is a little bit basic. I should have thought that it's just a pawn. What if this? And how do I defend the bishop? And the game is just over. So they attack. They do attack the bishop, but right now I can just trade everything off. So there's this thing in chess, right? Why attack a piece with a stronger piece if you can do the same job with a weaker piece? Which is why bishop here is just a far stronger move, because Now if, you know, it just wins my queen. Whereas in the other case, it would have just been a trade of queens, right? You know, and so what they actually played, this would have just been a straight trade of queens. So always look to you know, attack stuff with the least valuable piece if it does the same job. So anyway, the game proceeded like this. I managed to scurry away with my king, sort of castling by hand here. And they throw in this check, but I think my king comes back and I'm reasonably safe. Now this looks really scary, everything coming down at my king, but I can just like maybe push, which I do. And they come up with this brilliant move, Sakura, smashing out a brilliant move, right? You know, taking the pawn. If I take, it's just going to be mate. Check here, check here, and this, something like that. No, I missed something. Let's see what the engine says. This, oh, just a preemptive. That's gorgeous. Just the slow move. Just the king is never escaping, and this is coming. Yeah, the engine says you got to sack your queen at that point. So yeah, this bishop move, gorgeous, and I sort of saw this and I didn't want to take it, so I did this instead. So the queen now defends the pawn, and the engine here makes I think a horrible decision, right? Slides back. Answer me this: if sacking the bishop for one pawn works and wins the game, then why wouldn't you follow that train of thought and sack the bishop for like another pawn? Just like keep going. And that's what the engine loves. So Sakura missed that and instead just slid back. Just a bit odd, like just very bottish. Like I think a human would have committed. Normally if you try and sack your piece once and they don't take it, you can just power through and just keep taking. So I go for this like desperate idea. It looks very aggressive, but it is actually neutral in this position. You know, they can come in with checks, but I come up, and actually there's not much here. If check, I can just slide over and probably get my king over to this square in the future. So instead of that, Sakura, and I talked about earlier, these computers are programmed to make blunders, but like randomly and in random little blunders, and she just plays that, missing the whole point of my idea, which is just sacking the queen, which the you know, Chess.com says is brilliant, but it's really not. Like that's a pretty common motif, right? Just a back rank mate. So Sakura just I mean, if you want to beat these bots, you can, guys. You just gotta stick it out and keep playing them. Let me know in the comments, does that count as a win if I've played her 10, 15 times? Probably not, but I did beat her eventually. Yeah, good luck against Sakura, guys. Hope you learned something there. Like and subscribe. See you next time. Cheers.